Hello. All right, today we're going to talk about rich versus wealthy. Which one do you want to be? Um, and I know when I was younger, I preferred to be rich, right? You see people in fancy cars, luxury items, jewelry. You wanted to be, or I wanted to be like that person, right? Or like that family. Rich vacations and those things. But then as I got older and I realized once I became an adult and I started working with money, it's great to have luxury items, but I would rather be wealthy. And I'm going to talk about the two differences between rich and wealthy. But think of rich as someone that has a high income or an expensive lifestyle versus a wealthy person that accumulated assets and net worth. And preferably I'd rather be the wealthy person, right? Because when you do a comparison between rich and wealthy, I did some research on this. You start to figure out that most rich people focus on their income. However, a rich doctor, a lawyer that makes six figures, when you look at their spending and their budget, they're probably over allocated or probably underwater because they're spending all their money on all the luxury items, right? The Porsche, the luxury home or the vacation home, the vacations, the jewelry, the lifestyle, right? Eating out, those things. Whereas a wealthy person focuses on their net worth. When we talk about net worth, I talked about this a lot in my videos. We talk about assets, liabilities, and assets, right? So those cars, that jewelry, all of those things are liabilities. And then your assets is things that mature over time, right? Like a 401k or a savings account or high yield savings or stocks, bonds, those things, they appreciate, as well as real estate as well. And like, with a rich person, I talked about this earlier, often visibly you see through their lifestyle, right? That Porsche that I was talking about, that Louis Vuitton bag or the Louboutin shoes, whatever they call them. And with a wealthy person, it's often invisible, right? They're driving a Honda Accord, right? They're pulling up at a nice house that they can afford. But visibly, you don't see that luxury. And rich can be temporary, right? We talked about this. You can have a high income one day and be laid off or have no employment the next. And wealthy people usually have long term wealth. You know, money earned from work is a rich person, right? And then a wealthy person has money generated by assets, right? We talked about this: stocks, bonds, investments, real estate, things that mature over time. When you buy a car, just for an example, even a luxury car or any car, the moment you drive off the lot, that car has depreciated by a lot of percentage. Whereas if you buy stock, it appreciates over time. The stock market has averaged a 10% return over the life of the stock market. So that tells you kind of where you need to be investing. And like I said, most rich people spend most of their income, whereas a wealthy person preserves and grow their assets. A rich people will say I make a lot of money, whereas a wealthy person may say my money makes a lot of money. And that's where you want to be. You want to make sure that the money that you earn, the hard work that we do every day. I work for an employer, and the hard work that I do every day, I want to make sure that my money matures, my money grows. Instead of banking on the lottery, put my money in the stock market or investment opportunities and watch my money grow. Is it safe? No, nothing is really safe in this world. But you come out in a different way when you invest versus just gathering liabilities versus assets. All right. So let me just give you some tips on building wealth. So, and you're going to hear more about this through Mental and Money. But you want to live below your means, meaning if you make $5,000, you want to spend less than that for the month. Eliminate high interest debt. So we talked about buy now, pay later, get rid of it, don't use it. Most credit cards are 20% interest right now. So I use credit cards, but I pay them all periodically every time I get paid. Consistently invest. So we talked about this. If you have a Roth IRA, a Roth 401k, a IRA, Roth, try to use those. Those are more tax efficient because you pay up front the taxes, but at the end of your when it's time to retire, you retire tax free. Consistently invest. Owning appreciating assets. So we talked about this. No difference between an asset and a liability. If it's appreciating, you may want to invest in it. If it's not, you may want to think about it. Create multiple income streams. So not just your job, but maybe, we talked about these side jobs and, multiple income streams is really great for wealth. And then think long term rather than lifestyle focus. So think about your future, not just the right now. So you need to do a little bit of both. So that's all I wanted to leave you with today. And I'm going to hit you with a Bible verse, as I always do. We talked about the wise versus folly. Proverbs 14, verse 24. The wealth of the wise is their crown, but the folly of fools yields folly. All right, thank you. Have a good day.